Hey everybody, Bridget Dolgoff, and I don't know if I have I'm just gonna sit on my, it's not gonna be a very long video, so, this is gonna be Star Child, I think it's 11 or whatever, and I just wanted to, if I can just move it forward a little bit, maybe that'll help. I don't know. Anyway, so, I'm sorry I always have to keep messing with this, but, you have to deal with what you have. And so I'm dealing with, the equipment I have. So I wanted to just talk about, that didn't really help much, did it? All right, that's better. Then I can just kind of kick back. So I wanted to talk about the doctor. And the doctor, the clinic, the dentist, and the nurse. So when I was little, I don't know how long it went on. I'm trying to think the last time I saw that doctor was probably about the last time that I saw the dentist, the nurse, the clinics. So because I believe, that I was unique, and everybody, kind of in that, being a star kid, being like awake from day one, and then having two bloodlines, genetics, of exorcists, prophets, shamans. I believe my great-grandmother was indigenous blood, native blood. So just, a lot different. Let's just say that, a lot different. And when I was a kid, I used to plot how I was going to escape. I mean, this became like a really big concern for me. And I would visualize, basically how I was going to rebel or I was going to throw down. And this is when I was around 2 or 3 years old. The problem is like I was a large, awake, maybe adult being inside a teeny little body that didn't have the physical strength yet to fight other people. It wasn't tall enough, couldn't outrun them, and most likely wouldn't have been able to survive out there on my own. And so I always knew, when we were going to be going to the doctor or the dentist or, and the one clinic. The one doctor clinic that I used to go to, it was kind of over by a hospital called St. Mary's here in Reno, but it's long gone. The whole building has been long gone. Long gone since I was like a teenager. And so sometimes I don't think that I'm not sure that it had a front door. Let's just say that it was real, but not real, like, normal people wouldn't have seen it or known about that clinic. So I went to the doctor, was called Dr. Burger, like a hamburger, which is kind of, a flag, red flag. And he was old when I was seeing him. He was the, pediatric doctor, whatever, children's doctor, or experimental doctor, or the thing is like, I don't ever remember him talking much. I have a sense that he may have been foreign. So I kind of have this thing that I link him to, maybe like paperclip kind of thing. But the thing is that I wasn't MK Ultra. I just want people to know that. I have no MK Ultra, but I think because of my unusualness, because of what happened to my mom early in her life, that because they handled her and then tortured her in a mental hospital. So it's just kind of how I ended up rounded up in this program. And I think there's a lot of people like me. I don't think I'm an anomaly. It's just most of us don't make it. Most of us were put in psychiatric hospitals. A lot of us star kids, committed suicide. I mean, a lot of us star kids, like on the male side, were harvested, when they made people, have to sign up for military duty or war. I suspect lots of them were star kids. And then once they actually were shooting guns at people or witnessing mass death, that would have been it. They would have cracked. I mean, I don't understand any of that at all. So anyway, so I believe I was in, like some type of medical handling, special type medical programs, and things of that nature. I remember, every time I was going to have to go to the clinic, like I had this, to see the doctor, the nurse in the medical clinic. I remember, that I would think about, my mom had this old car, 4-door, one of those big, heavy Mambos. And I always thought about, okay, when they get out of the car, okay, this is the thinking of a 2 and 3-year-old, right? I mean, not a star kid inside, that I was going to like run around the car and lock all the doors and lock myself in, kind of as, a communication of defiance. Like, I'm not going to put up with this kind of stuff. So, as soon as we would pull up into the parking lot, it would be major knockdown, drag out, with my mom trying to drag me in. And, I, was kicking and screaming. And I did not trust Dr. Berger. I did not trust anybody in that building at all. And I didn't trust my mom. Because, she had been electroshocked when she was a late teens, in her early 20s, because she got captured. She got pulled away from our family and captured and tortured. And so I would devise these, plans on how I was going to make these like great escapes. I thought about it a lot. And Dr. Berger, I always felt like violated, not like sexually violated, but just violated by him touching me, like looking at my abdomen, checking things out, check out everything. And he was dishonest, very dishonest. Because of the tactics, of handling me, right? One time, I was kicking him and biting him, and I think I was like around 4. My mom was trying to get me to be nice and try to like get me to like, trying to, bait me with some kind of golden carrot when we get out of there. And, like if you could just be nice, just sit down, don't fight. My mom was like horrified. And I remember I was standing on this table. And so Dr. Berger, the table was probably at his waist and I was standing on it being 4. And my pants were gone, right? I had my shirt on and stuff because they were going to try to give me some injections in my legs. And, and I was like not going for it. And So I remember, like, I was kicking and punching, and I was just, giving this 85-year-old frail doctor, like, just a run for his money. And then the nurse, is in there. But this is the thing, it was a giant open room. There weren't like private rooms. That's another thing that, is kind of red flaggy. And so he says something like, "Oh, look out the window at the doggy," because I have a thing about dogs and animals. And so I look out the window and he jabs me like in the leg with the injection. And I remember screaming because it like totally hurt. And I was angry. And then I remember they tried to give me and my sister, smallpox vaccinations, and they wouldn't take it all. So they did some kind of genetic study. They found out, like, I'm pretty sure it's probably from, I don't know exactly, but it turned out that me and my sister were, had natural immunities towards certain kinds of viruses. I later on worked with an immunologist in kind of a small clinic who was out of the box, and kind of learned about different kind of, let's just say, human types. There's a degenerative disease type, there's the metabolic type, and then there's the viral type. And I ended up being in, the viral type, which means, any kind of pussy sore stuff, that's my type. So I'm never going to get those viruses. So no shingles, no smallpox, no chicken pox, no herpes, no, any of that kind of stuff. But I'm a strep and staph. So I have to really watch my infection level. So I can get an infection really rapidly, and it can kind of take over. And so, so that's kind of more, on that viral, infectious kind of thing. So those are the things that I have to watch out for. Like if I have a sore wound, I heal it right away and I keep it clean. Like if I have acne, I don't, I take really good care of it so it doesn't ever get infected. And I watch the staph infection levels in my body. So when my body starts to create little acnes with whiteheads, I know that my staph infection internally is getting up there. So I do all kinds of things to actually reduce it internally. And one of the big things was I had to quit dairy. Dairy is a major staph and strep incubator. Okay, so anyway, so the Dr. Berger, so they did this thing and they found out that, we had these kind of strange immunities, me and my sister, towards different things, which makes us more experimental for sure. And then the nurse was interesting, and I can't remember her name, but it's a super interesting story. So I can't remember when we stopped going to the clinic. I think that guy died. And the experimental clinic or whatever, once he died, kind of shut down, kind of thing. And then the nurse, I remember her, clearly. And this is like the really funky thing. So, because all my family has died, and because I've spent a lot of time away kind of from my family too, I never really talked about a lot of the stuff when I was younger. I mean, sometimes it would come up about Dr. Berger or whatever. But the nurse is the one that really, really always kind of... Hold on a second. Oh, I have a battery issue. The nurse is kind of, nurse was always kind of the one that really kind of stood out. Because she never really talked much, and, whatever she was doing, and just, the way she looked. So, I don't know. This was about I think the Scolari's Market is closed now, but it used to be on Pyramid Way. It goes through Sparks on your way to Pyramid Lake. And I remember I stopped in there like about, I don't know, 10 years ago just to pick up a couple things because I was in that neighborhood and I had to go work on a dog or something like that. And I needed some, I don't know, gloves or something. I don't know. Dog treats, probably. And I went in there and I was in the checkout line and I looked at the woman that was doing the checkout. And it was her. It was the nurse. Like, I don't know, 40 years later. And I said, "Hey, I remember you." She's like, "You do?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do." I said, "I used to be a patient when I was a little girl of Dr. Berger." And her eyes were like, giant saucers. And then she didn't really want to look me in the face, and so she's scanning my stuff and then, I'm trying to pay and, she's trying to like hurry me, do the hustle. And I said, so that's kind of I said, like, so did you just give up your nursing career? And she didn't say anything. And she said, "Oh, I've just been doing checkout for about 25 years now, with different stores or whatever else." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And so, like I left and I thought about that. And I'm like, if you were really a pediatric nurse, I mean, the thing is, I wish I would have, known her name, her whole name. Because she wasn't wearing it, like even her first name or anything like that. And anyway, so I could have looked into it. And then I thought, well, maybe they all got exposed and the clinic got closed down. Maybe it was a special program. Or maybe when Dr. Berger died or whatever happened with him, that was it. They closed the program down. And then I was like, maybe she wasn't a real nurse. So, yeah. And then, because who would go to school to become a pediatric nurse? You know how much money they make? And then what? Then your whole career is now going to be a person checking groceries out at like a really low income store. It just made, it makes no sense. So the dentist, and this is the thing is there has to be a lot of, not real doctors and nurses and all kinds of stuff that pull specialty people or specialty children out into their practices some way. Stuff happens and you get referred to a specialist, some kind of specialist. So the dentist was a really trippy guy too. The early dentist that I went into, and I don't remember what his name was, but I remember where the clinic was. And he had, 2 lady helpers. And basically, I was terrified of that place too. Because I'd been hit by the lady helper, the dentist nurse, or whatever she is. I don't know. She, full scale slapped me off a chair. Because back then they were always trying to give you fluoride with these clamps. They would put stuff up here and then they would clamp your mouth open. And then they would pour this fluoride with your mouth like wide open and you literally could not breathe. And they flattened you back in this chair and you were like gagging to death. And so I didn't go for the fluoride treatments. It was a full scale battle. But I'm not going to participate in that battle royal. And I was majorly assaulted. And it was one of the reasons that my mom finally left that dentist. And we didn't go to dentist for quite a while. And then, we went to got another dentist who did, huge amounts of unnecessary work. Because people are experimental. And I think, later generations and my generation really got a lot of experimental treatments, including DDT sprayed, in their neighborhoods, and all the kids played in it, and, sprayed from above, and, all kinds of stuff. Anyway. All right. So that's just kind of like, a lot of these videos are for other unusual, let's see, kids that are awake and know they're awake and know things about them, and maybe star kids, and there may be a lot of things on their mind that maybe are unexplainable about this world. So I'm not really doing this to prove anything. I'm doing it to put out information to help others, and the ones that are younger coming in. All right, that's it. Talk to you later. Over and out. Conscious of Economics and Urban Farm Project, Bridget Lynn Dolgoff.